Dirty dealings, corporate battles, consumer woes. This is Evening 5. Clad in a white baju Melayu, Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim has unveiled a record budget for 2025. At 421 billion ringgit, budget 2025 is 3.3% higher than the revised 2024 spending of 407.5 billion ringgit. OPEX is expected to amount to 335 billion, while 86 billion will go towards development spending. Revenue collection is projected at 339.7 billion ringgit, in tandem with the better economic outlook in 2025. Fiscal deficit is projected to reduce to 3.8% of GDP. Meanwhile, the economy is seen growing at between 4.5 and 5.5%. Headline inflation is projected to range at 2 to 3.5%, the highest in 8 years, amid potential upward pressures from subsidy rationalization, price controls, and a drop in global commodity prices. The jobless rate is expected to drop further to 3.1%, its lowest point in a decade. In terms of allocations, the Ministry of Education received the highest allocation, a record high of 64.1 billion, up 9.2% from last year. The Ministry of Higher Education also received a bump from 16.3 billion to 18 billion ringgit. The Ministry of Health came in second, receiving a budget allocation of 45.3 billion, up 10% from 41.2 billion in 2024. And finally, in the ongoing fight against corruption, the Malaysia Anti-Corruption Commission will see an increase in allocation by 22 million to 360 million ringgit. And now, some of the key takeaways of Budget 2025. A significant focus of Budget 2025 is the rationalization of subsidies as well as taxes. For starters, Malaysia's wealthy can expect to pay higher prices for RON 95 starting mid-next year, with the rollout of targeted subsidies for the widely used fuel grade. Subsidies will remain for 85% of the Malaysian public at a cost of 12 billion ringgit. Putrajaya is also exploring targeted subsidies for education and healthcare in public hospitals to exclude those in the top 15% income bracket. Meanwhile, the scope of the Sales and Service Tax, or SST, will be expanded. Starting May 1st, 2025, sales tax will be imposed on non-essential items, including imported premium items such as salmon and avocado. Service tax will be charged on fee-based financial services starting the same day. As for the excise duty on sugary drinks, it will be raised in phases by up to 40 cents per litre, effective January 1st. The current sugar tax is 50 cents per litre. The government also plans to introduce a 2% tax on dividend income exceeding 100,000 ringgit, effective from the year of assessment 2025. Also announced under the 2025 spending plan, individual tax relief on housing loan interest payments as the government seeks to encourage first home ownership. Tax relief of as much as 7,000 ringgit will be provided for homes worth up to 500,000 ringgit, while tax relief of up to 5,000 will be provided for houses priced between 500,000 and 750,000 ringgit. Also, lower repayments in the first 5 years for housing loans granted under the Housing Credit Guarantee Scheme offered by Syarikat Jaminan Kredit Perumahan, or SJKP. Other tax relief proposed include individual income tax relief of up to 3,000 on premiums paid for education and medical insurance for self, spouse and child. The tax relief for individuals on net savings under the National Education Savings Scheme will be extended for another 3 years. Additionally, Putrajaya will raise the allocation for cash transfers under Sumbangan Tunai Rahmah and Sumbangan Asas Rahmah programs to 13 billion ringgit from 10 billion ringgit. There's also a little something for the civil service. Each public servant of grade 56 and below, including those on contract appointments, will get 500 ringgit. Civil service retirees, including those without pensions, will get 250 ringgit. The cash will be distributed in February. On to some industry-specific announcements. For the palm oil sector, the government is proposing to raise the windfall profit levy threshold on crude palm oil prices as planters grapple with the rising cost of production. The plan is to hike the threshold to impose the 3% levy by 150 to 3,150 ringgit per tonne in Peninsular Malaysia and 3,650 per tonne in Sabah and Sarawak. The market price structure and export duty rates for CPO will be revised starting November 1st this year, while the current treatment for exports from Sabah and Sarawak will be maintained. As for state agricultural agencies Felda, Felkra and Rizda, Putrajaya is looking to up its total allocation to 2.6 billion from 2.4 billion in 2024. It is also looking to roll out the new investment incentive framework designed to cultivate local talent and attract high-value investments, particularly in the electrical and electronics and artificial intelligence sectors. Backed by a strategic fund of 1 billion, the framework is expected to be introduced in the third quarter of next year. Among others, it will expand tax incentives for exports to include integrated circuit design activities. It will also offer special tax deductions to private universities and skill training institutes that offer new courses in digital technology, AI, robotics, the Internet of Things, data science, fintech, and sustainable technology. A matching investment fund exceeding 100 million will be made available through an equity crowdfunding platform to help expand local suppliers in the E&E sector, specialty chemicals, and medical devices. PM Anwar said the government is also eyeing a carbon tax on iron, steel, and energy industries by 2026 to address climate change. The revenue from this tax will be used to fund research and green technology programs. Meanwhile, under the energy transition agenda, the National Energy Transition Facilitation Fund allocation will be raised to 300 million ringgit from 100 million in 2024. Applications for rooftop solar quota allocation under the net energy metering will also be extended until June 30th, 2025. Anwar said the Green Technology Financing Scheme program will continue until 2026 with 1 billion in funding. To greenify industrial areas, Tenaga Nasional and UEM Lestra, the green industry arm of UEM Group, will invest 16 billion ringgit to upgrade the grid. There is also an investment tax allowance of 60% for 5 years that will be provided to logistics companies that undertake complex smart logistics activities. This is to increase the capacity of the logistics industry through adoption of IR 4.0 technology. For the tourism industry, allocations include 550 million to promote and prepare for Visit Malaysia Year 2026 and 600 million for the restoration of landmarks in Kuala Lumpur, such as Karkosa Srinagar. When it comes to individual businesses, Budget 2025 focused on modernisation, bringing up medium and small businesses, and getting more women back into the workforce. In one of the most impactful moves, monthly minimum wage will be raised from 1,500 to 1,700 starting February 1st, 2025. In an effort to reduce Malaysia's dependency on foreign workers, the government will introduce a multi-tiered levy mechanism early next year, where the levy will be channeled back to the industry players to drive their business. But for foreign workers already here, the government plans to make it compulsory for foreign workers to make contributions to EPF, which will be implemented in phases. In his speech, the PM made it clear that increasing women's participation in the labour market was also a priority. He had proposed a further 50% tax deduction to employers for 12 months' wages paid to women who are getting back into work. There will also be made available 470 million ringgit in funding to support women SMEs. The government also set a 2027 deadline for the 39 of Bursa Malaysia's top 100 companies that have yet to meet the women participation requirement on their boards of directors. Anwar also recognised how MSMEs and SMEs remain the lifeblood of the economy. It is proposed that a stamp duty exemption be given for skim pembiayaan micro loans or financing agreements up to 100,000. To ensure they have increased access to all types of funding, Budget 2025 also also proposed a 100% stamp duty exemption be given for loans executed through approved initial exchange offerings or IEO platforms. Also, to encourage the adoption of e-invoicing, businesses that do so will be eligible for accelerated capital allowances related to the purchase of equipment and software for this purpose. Budget 2025 also looks to address work-life balance and those that may need a second chance. Employers will be able to get a 50% further deduction related to the expenses of implementing more flexible working conditions. And finally, for those needing a leg up, the government is expanding the second chance policy to include companies that have gone bankrupt. The policy has so far benefited over 170,000 individuals looking for a clean slate. In what Anwar calls a historic first, the government will allocate 50 acres of the Bandar Malaysia development as Malay reserve land. In his budget speech, Anwar emphasised that now is not the time for mega projects. Instead, development spending will focus on projects that benefit the public and on upgrading facilities supporting industrial areas. Thus, the government will spend 2.8 billion to maintain federal roads and provide MARIS, or Malaysia Road Record Information System, funds of 5.5 billion for state roads. Moving over to East Malaysia, among the projects in Sabah and Sarawak that were highlighted in the budget included 7.4 billion for 4 work packages under Phase 2 of Sabah-Sarawak Link Road, 2 of which will be awarded before the end of this year. 253 million for the expansion of Tawau and Miri airports, and 1 billion ringgit for the Sarawak Cancer Centre. Going back to roads, other projects that will be developed on a user pay format via public-private partnerships include the WISE Highway from Gopeng to Kuala Kangsar and the WCE Highway from Banting to Gelang Patah. Also, as climate change and age puts more strain on infrastructure, the government has also allocated 250 million to repair dangerous slopes around the country, 21 million to curb sinkholes in Perak, Kedah and Perlis, and another 10 million to carry out a study of the structure of the soil in downtown KL, and another 150 million for flood response and another 600 million to the National Disaster Management Agency. To help facilitate this, 1.3 billion was allocated to empower G1 to G4 contractors, in particular Bumiputra contractors, to undertake small and medium projects which include road construction and repair and maintenance of public infrastructure. And to prove that no project is too small, Budget 2025 also had 100 million ringgit allocation for the upgrading of warongs and wet markets.